Have you ever heard of a caterpillar that squeaks like a mouse? If not, that's about to change in today's episode of Insects for Fun. We're looking into a fall-time flyer known as the squeaking silk moth. Squeaking silk moths, scientifically known as Rhodinia fugax, are a species of giant silk moth native to Korea, China, and Japan. The species name can be translated as shy or elusive, which is a fair name given how well they blend in with their surroundings. That being said, once you know what to look for, it becomes quite easy to spot them under the leaves of their host trees. I was able to find quite a few and document some on a vlog for Patreon in one of my nightly excursions. And just recently, the cocoons that I've raised have started eclosing, and I'm currently preparing some new vlog content for that as well. The family for this moth happens to be my favorite, Saturniidae, which makes them giant silk moths. And yes, they do indeed produce silk, but it's not usable for crafts like other giant silk moths. As for what these moths look like, they're a bit on the smaller side when it comes to giant silk moths, with males having a wingspan between 7.5 and 9 centimeters. The females are larger, with a wingspan reaching up to 11 centimeters. This isn't the only difference between genders either. You see, this species is sexually dimorphic, with males having a burnt ember color and females being yellow. The females also have fuller and more rounded wings when compared with the males. What's really interesting though is that females have a band on their wings in the same color of males' wings, which seems to outline the dimensions of the male wing. It's like someone took a male, placed it on a female, and then traced its outline with the male's color. Either way, the colors very much match the fall-time atmosphere, and the Japanese name given to them is usutabi, which translates to hand fire or lantern. These moths can be found in the mountains, flatlands, hillsides, and the borders between forested areas and flatlands. If you live in China, Korea, or Japan, and you've taken a stroll through the forest or parks near forests, there's a good chance you've seen their cocoons hanging on host trees. The Japanese name given to them isn't just in reference to their colors, but actually to the way their cocoons dangle from trees long after the leaves have fallen, like mini lanterns. That being said, the color of their cocoons is bright green, so it's not very lantern-like, unless you're talking about the superhero. This isn't the only fun and unique Japanese name given to them though. Their cocoons are specifically referred to as yamakamasu, which means folded straw mats of the mountain. As for the season, as I mentioned up top, these moths actually emerge in fall. But thanks to global warming, they're now more commonly being seen in December instead of October and November, as previously documented, at least in the Osaka prefecture. This isn't their only unique trait as an adult though. You see, the moths actually mate during the day and fly between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., making them one of only a handful of diurnal Saturniidae. It is possible to blacklight for females in the evening when it gets darker though, because this is when the females start laying eggs. Eggs of these moths are oviposited on a variety of hosts. In fact, it's such a wide variety that I won't even bother explaining it because there seems to be no particular family of interest. But why on earth are they laying eggs in December? That's like the worst time to lay eggs for caterpillars, right? Well, these moths, similar to the giant oak silk moths, go through their winter diapause as an egg. In fact, the eggs have to experience a period of colder temperatures in order to begin development. It has been found that if eggs which diapause in the winter experience weather at 25°C or 77°F during the winter months, then they will not hatch and in fact die. Eggs left in temperatures of 20°C or 68°F will develop and hatch within 87 days. At 10°C or 50°F, the eggs develop and hatch within 145 days, and they will even develop at temperatures which remain as low as 5°C or 41°F. That being said, eggs will not hatch if left at this low temperature for an entire year. The eggs slow down or speed up depending on the ambient temperature of their surroundings, which is timed for the caterpillars to begin hatching once foliage is available to eat. The development time for the caterpillars is surprisingly slow given their size. And I was feeding mine for what felt like the entire duration of summer, from May through July. Meanwhile, my Cynthia moths, which are much larger by the way, managed to go through their larval stage within 3 weeks during August, which absolutely blew my mind. Okay, now it's time to talk about the strange behavior that makes these caterpillars so cute and well known for hobbyists. These caterpillars use sound as a defense mechanism in their later instars. Experiments by a researcher at the University of Kobe, Japan, has shown us that these caterpillars produce audible cries or squeaks by forcing air out of their first abdominal set of spiracles. So, what does that even mean? Insects, as you know, don't have lungs and rely on small valve-like structures to regulate oxygen. These valve structures are called spiracles, and caterpillars have them lining the sides of their bodies. They're most visible and notable on the final instars, and the squeaking silk moths rely on only 2 to make loud noises when disturbed, and this happens only in their final 2 molts. The caterpillars contract their body to force air out, which makes a surprisingly loud sound similar to that of a dog toy or mouse in distress. I'm going to play an audio clip for you now. What's even more surprising is that they can still do this inside their cocoon as a pre-pupa. That being said, I have not noticed them producing squeaks in their later stages of pupal development, and I didn't read anything about it in the paper I found either. They do the most squeaking in their final instar and prepupal phase of development and do none at all in instars 1 through 3. You might be thinking that was the only big surprising fact about these, but there are actually a couple more interesting things, specifically in how people of Japan have been using the cocoons of this moth over the years. Let's start with its folk remedies. In Fujisawa-cho area of Iwate Prefecture, the cocoons are called yamabiko, and they were once boiled and used as a folk remedy to treat ear infections and mouth sores. In Fukushima Prefecture and northern Tochigi Prefecture, the cocoons were placed around the throat to treat or prevent colds. As for the specific details on why they believe this to be a cure, I'm not sure, because there's no current medical record showing medicinal properties for these cocoons. However, what I can say is that because these cocoons remain bright green through winter, it was believed that they had spiritual properties of rebirth, and could be used as talismans to attain stability. In the Minami Aizu region of Fukushima Prefecture, cocoons are attached to the back of baby clothes as a talisman to create stability, because it is said that the souls of small children are unstable. Even in Western culture, it's believed that children are closer to the veil between life and death, which is why many kids report seeing things that adults simply can't. And that is going to wrap up this episode on Rhodinia fugax, aka the squeaking silk moth. If you enjoyed this episode or enjoy the show, please go rate the podcast on whatever platform you listen. If you have something you want me to talk about, you can email me at insectsfordummies@gmail.com or DM the Instagram page. Links to everything in the show notes, along with my Patreon, where you can get vlogs, bonus episodes, and ad-free episodes. And thank you again for listening.